At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Are negative Google reviews hurting your business? Don't let unfair feedback cost you customers. At Webamax, we specialize in removing false, misleading, and damaging reviews so your online reputation stays strong. Our expert team works quickly and legally to clean up your digital presence, helping you rebuild trust. Visit us on the web at www.gowebamax.com. That's GOWEBIMAX.com, or text us for a free quote at 856-840-8343. Don't let bad reviews define you. Get immediate help from Webamax.
Lowe's knows how to help you get the most out of your store run. That's why members save more with MyLowe's Rewards. Earn points towards MyLowe's money on eligible purchases. Get access to member-only deals and free member gifts. Plus, unlock free standard shipping when you reach Silver Key status. So what are you waiting for? Join for free today. Lowe's. We help. You save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Building a portfolio with Fidelity Basket Portfolios is kind of like making a sandwich. It's as simple as picking your stocks and ETFs, sort of like your meats and other toppings, and managing it as one big, juicy investment. Now that's pretty good. Learn more at fidelity.com/baskets. Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. Member NYSE SIPC.
Good night, itchy eyes. Good night, sudden sneeze. Good night to your symptoms of allergies. Xyzal is the allergy medicine you take before bed. It provides powerful relief while you rest your head. Not just all night, but all the next day. Xyzal keeps working, keeping allergies at bay. And without those annoying symptoms disturbing your rest, you can wake up the next morning feeling your absolute best. Remember, be wise all. Take Xyzal. At night.
Hello and welcome to Islanders Anxiety from Lighthouse Hockey and the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Dan Saracini. Joining me on this Monday evening by Zencaster is my friend Michael Leboff. And Mike, the Four Nations face-off is over. Congratulations to our friends in Canada on their victory. Brock Nelson came back in one piece. Thank you. Barely played in the whole damn tournament. Thank you, Mike Sullivan, for doing that. We really appreciate it. And the Islanders are back in action, and they picked up right where they left off, losing to a really good Western Conference team, this time at home, 4-3 to the Dallas Stars at UBS Arena. We're going to talk a lot about this game. It was a very weird game in a lot of ways, of only, because we hadn't watched these guys play in a couple of weeks, and all of a sudden sort of brought back all of the latent memories that we had built up all season long. At the end of the game, we were texting, and you said this was a cursed game, and I definitely don't disagree. Did it feel like it was going to be a cursed game going into it? Or were your hopes sort of high coming off of the Four Nations face-off, coming into what's really a huge week for the Islanders and what might be considered the final real week of the regular season? Did you feel it was going to be a cursed game, or did it just sort of turn out that way at the end?
No, I didn't go into it thinking that. I didn't really have any idea what to expect because of the break. And having a break that long, you kind of just forget how everything works. Being a fan, like you turn the game on and it takes like a couple minutes to pick up on things, and didn't take long for the Stars to get ahead, of course, but it became pretty clear that it was going to be a cursed game. Um, in like the first 8 or 9 minutes, it felt like anytime the Islanders had a scoring chance, like the puck would bounce
Mm.
off of a stick or whatever,
Yeah.
and I can't even remember if they got a shot on goal in like the first 8 or 9 minutes, but um, so it started to feel like a night where the Stars were going to shut them out again. Um, and this goes back to something we discussed in the first week of the season, which was that the Islanders are they average a wretchedly cursed season every 3 or 4 years in their franchise history, like, when you extrapolate it all out, I think,
Right.
is fair. I'd have to go back and do the math on that and talk
Mm.
to Eric Hornick on the stats to make sure that it's 100% true, but I think that's a fair
Feels about right.
a fair assessment, right? They'll have a streak where they win 4 Stanley Cups in a row.
Right.
But then, they also have a streak where they have, owners who are going to jail every other year, and they might move. They're playing in 3 different buildings and stuff like that. So when you extrapolate it all out, it's like 3 or 4 years. And I thought because the Islanders had such a cursed season right after right when the year UBS Arena opened, which was a real treat to open the new building and just have a Murphy's Law season to welcome it to cut the ribbon, that we'd be have some sort of relief for a couple years. But it became very evident in Game 2 that this was going to be a cursed season when the Islanders played pretty well in Dallas after the Utah game that we always reference to open the season, but they couldn't score. They didn't score in that game, and this game looked like the fourth period. The first period of this game looked like the fourth period of a game that took place 5 months ago. Like, it just looked like the two teams came out of the locker room and just were playing one another in that same game. The Islanders couldn't get anything going.
Right.
The Stars looked like they were going to be tough to break down, and I couldn't deal with it. The Islanders break through on a very strange goal from Pierre Engvall, and that seemed to really anger the hockey gods.
Right.
That Pierre Engvall scored. Don't blame them.
Right.
When Mark Gatcomb, Kyle McLean, and Pierre Engvall are combining for a goal,
Right.
that's going to do something to the space-time continuum. Because from that point on, and that was a weird goal. It was like Engvall whiffed, and then he sort of semi-whiffed, and all of that threw off Jake Ottinger. And that was a weird goal, and it was so far down the list, the weirdest things that happened in that game, that the game just became it was just a disturbing, haunting game to watch. Because you knew that at the end of it, the Islanders were going to come up empty-handed. And boy, did they. They did. They did play well.
Yeah.
But if you watch that game, and I think a bunch of people tuned in for it because it was Sunday night and one of the only games going at the time, they must have been like, "What the hell is going on?" And for us, it's just another one of these. It's just another one of these instances this season, and this season being the 2021, 2022, 2022, 2023, 2023, 2024, 2024, 2025 season. It's just another game that we have to sit through and pretend like this is normal.
Yep.
This is just what happens. And then you go to bed. That your very normal hockey team plays a very normal hockey game, and you go to bed. That's how it works. So, yeah, I mean, it's I was just at a loss and kind of just defeated afterwards.
Yeah.
And sort of missed the break.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I feel kind of the same way. It felt like a game after watching the Four Nations tournament, and I only watched 2 games of it, just that one Saturday. This felt like it was barely even the same sport, and that's with the Stars, who play very, very well. And I'm going to get into how they play and how much. I mean, I've joked on this podcast before that I think I've picked Dallas to win the last 4 Stanley Cups, and I'm gonna keep with that until they eventually do it one of these years. But they looked really good, as they have most of the season. Jake Ottinger, like you said, I thought he was going to gun for the easiest shutout of his career until Pierre Engvall changed everything. We'll get into the game in bits and pieces, and then we'll talk about the games coming up on the other side and a bunch of other things too. Reminder that we are on Patreon at patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety. Membership gets you ad-free episodes of these shows, plus bonus podcasts like our mailbag and our Country Club Atmosphere, or written posts like my Islanders Book Club, which has a new edition coming out later this week. So sign up today, patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety. So yeah, the game ended up being very weird. Again, it was 4-3 Dallas. For a second, it looked like they were going to tie, the Islanders were going to tie the game and it was going to go to overtime, but that's not how it worked out. We'll get there. So at first, Scott Mayfield and Ryan Pulock came back into the lineup after using the break to heal their wounds. Mayfield would play a direct role in the first goal of the game, which was by Sam Steele 2 minutes in. He basically just outmuscles Mayfield, just kind of strides past him and scores. And at first you're just like, well, I guess these guys weren't ready. Maybe their brains were still back in Cancun or wherever it was that they were hanging out. Shots wise, it was an even period about, but it looked like it was mostly Dallas. Ryan Pulock, though, did essentially save a goal by pulling the puck, a puck that got behind Ilya Sorokin off the goal line. And I could have swore that puck was in, and I was about to turn the game off. Apparently it wasn't. And again, this is the least weird section of the game.
Right.
But the first period ends 1-0 Dallas, and you're thinking, why am I watching this? I didn't miss this, and I don't want to watch this because I've seen this game before, right?
Yeah, and even that play, which was bonkers,
Yeah.
becomes a footnote in the game. And the way that the puck got to the goal line becomes a footnote in that play because it hit off someone's, I think Adam Pellick's shin, Sorokin's body, someone else, and then Sorokin's stick, which flew out of his hand, and then that
right.
flying stick then hit it behind him, and it fluttered onto the goal line. And once Polak made that, and that was I think on a penalty kill too. And once Polak made that play, my first thought immediately was, oh, that was great, but they're going to score in 30 seconds later. Like, that's how this team works. Like, they'll make a play like that, and it'll just turn into a more back-breaking goal just a few seconds later. And then when they didn't, I finally started to, like, feel that the Islanders had a chance to do something in this game for a little bit. And going into the second, like, maybe they shook the rust off. And but as you said, like, that was just the beginning. That was just the beginning. And this is every night we're dealing with shit like ghosts like this. We're dealing with, you remember that Leafs documentary?
Yeah.
That we love so much. The one where they followed the Leafs during the bubble season, or the COVID, not the bubble season, but the North Division season. And Amazon had like set it up to basically be like, oh, this is the year the Leafs win, and then kind of like abruptly ended it when they lost in the first round. Yeah. And there's that scene where assistant coach for the Leafs, Paul McLean, and his wonderful mustache, they're sitting in like the coach's mess hall, and he's like, they got demons with them in the car on the way to the stadium. They got demons with them under their bed, in their locker room, and I really relate to that right now. I'm like, I turn an Islander game on, and I know 2.5 hours after I do that, I'm gonna be a very different person because I'm gonna see some shit.
Right.
I'm gonna see stuff that's gonna haunt me and keep me up at night. And that's not how this is supposed to work. As we say, maybe once every few games, every 10 games or so, you have a weird one. Stuff happens. But the Islanders are just doing it every other night at this point. And we're at game 58 or whatever coming up. And things are they're not stabilizing. They're not becoming more normal.
No.
As we'll see in the second and third period.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they were going to stabilize, it would have happened before this point because there is only 26 games left in the season, right? But stabilization is not this team's hallmark, so to speak. It's just again, I was so overwhelmed by the feeling of again, like, it's just, I didn't want, and I put out on Blue Sky, like, oh, that's right, I didn't miss this. Like, I didn't miss, and these types of games, and like, the Islanders, it should be said in fairness, had that run of 7 wins in a row, and they played really well, and they didn't have games like this. But this just brought back memories of 3 years worth of, or 4 years worth of games like this. It was a little bit much. But then the second period starts, and it's a wild one. Engvall, like you said, scores. I called it an excuse me backhander. He was kind of just rushing towards the net. The puck sort of wobbles on him. He backhands it past Ottinger. I'm sure even Ottinger was like, what the hell just happened? What's so funny is that Saturday I was watching the Caps Penguins game, and Penguins lost that game, but Crosby breaks in, and although it was on the other side of the net, basically scored his own sort of excuse me backhander. And that goal made me so mad that I messaged to you. I was like, I hate Sidney Crosby so much. And the reason I said that was because the Islanders, I felt, never get goals like this. Just a lucky goal that kind of wobbles between a goalie's pads on a backhander that really shouldn't go in, goes in. And then, of course, a day later, who gets that exact same goal with Pierre Engvall, of all people, to tie the game. And you think, oh, okay, well, maybe they're not going to get a shutout. Maybe they decided to play, and it was just a one period, sleepy time thing that they got out of their system now. But then Anthony Duclair turns the puck over in their own zone, the Islanders' own zone, ends up with Jason Robertson, who whips it in for a 2-1 Dallas lead. Duclair would score a goal later, but he had a kind of a funky game. Spent the first 2 periods for the most part turning the puck over to Dallas. It was not great, but Robertson's coming out of his early season slumber. He's up to like 20 something goals now, and again that he wasted no time in whipping that goal past Lee Sorokin. And you think, okay, well, that was quick. But Kyle Palmieri, on the very next play, beautiful pass by Tony DeAngelo, right up the gut to Kyle Palmieri, splits the defense, falls to one knee, and scores in the toy department, as Butch Goring said. If I was Lou Lamoriello, I would make sure that goal was clipped and sent to every other general manager in the league with a note saying, this man can be yours next week, and we'll start the bidding at whatever. Because that's the kind of goal that you would hope that a guy your team is going to acquire at the trade deadline would score. Again, I don't know if Ottinger didn't see it or didn't expect it, but it was a beautiful goal by Palmieri. Again, great pass by DeAngelo. And it's title again. But you're like, oh my God, maybe they're going to make something happen here, and maybe steal a point or two here. We're going to pause because the game is about to change real quick. But at this point, the game is tied at 2. Maybe those 2 goals for the Islanders were a little bit lucky, or maybe they were just, skillful or whatever. The game is tied, and the Islanders have a chance now halfway through to really get a point. What are your feelings about the game at that point in it?
Yeah, so I actually can tell you, because I had to give my head a shake after that goal, because it's like, oh God, I can't. When they went down 2-1, I was like, this is a mountain to climb. They're not gonna come back twice against this team in the same game.
Seriously.
And my mind started to drift to what was already transpired over the weekend, which the Islanders had a great out of town scoreboard on Saturday. The Red Wings blew a lead. They did get a point against the Wild, but they blew a lead. The Senators got crushed by the Habs. The Bruins, I think, lost to the Ducks in overtime. The Rangers got run out of the building by the Buffalo Sabres. So went into Sunday feeling pretty good. Like, if you can get a point out of this Dallas game, the schedule sets up. We'll talk a lot about the upcoming games soon, but the schedule sets up for the Islanders to make hay. If you can set yourself up with a point or even a win against the Stars team, boy, that's a huge situation. But then the things started to get a little sour in the afternoon. The Rangers got absolutely pummeled. Like, they just got pummeled by the Penguins. There was a point in the game where the Penguins were ahead 31-5 on the shot clock. 31-5 or something like that. They were up 14-0 on the shot clock in the second period. Nobody on the Rangers looked at all interested in playing. It was the most egregious form of quitting you can imagine, because they had just lost to the Sabres by basically a touchdown the night before coming out of the break. And it was 31-5 or whatever on the shot clock in favor of the Penguins. But the scoreboard, of course, read 1-1.
Right.
And we all know how this game is going to end. Like, if even if this is your first season watching the Islanders and getting used to the Islander-Ranger rivalry, maybe you're flipping back and forth between the 2 games every now and then. You'll watch a Rangers game where they're thoroughly outplayed, but you know that unless the other team has completely run away with it, which the Sabres did the night before, if the Rangers are hanging around, they will just sleepwalk their way into a goal at some point. And that's exactly what happened. A puck took a really weird bounce off of P.O. Joseph. There comes J.T. Miller on a 2-on-1, and it's 2-1 Rangers. And from that point on, the two teams are like just trading goals back and forth. Anthony Beauvillier had at least 3. I was watching this game, and I was watching Beauvillier like this is the Beauvillier I remember. He's just getting prime scoring chance after prime scoring chance and sending one into the third row, one off the post, whiffing on another, just inventing ways to not score. So Rangers win that game. Red Wings have a weird one with the Ducks where they win too. So when the Islanders were tied 2-2, I'm thinking so much about that Rangers game that it was driving me nuts. Because what ended up happening in that game was everything went the Rangers, every kind of bounce situation went the Rangers' way. And there was also a hit in that game, which we can talk about too, where the player on the Rangers didn't get a 5-minute major. He just got a minor. And that player happened to be grow the game superstar Matt Rempe. Pile drove someone's head into the glass, and they were like, it's just a minor. I'm watching that game go on, and the Rangers just catching all these breaks, and thinking, holy crap! Like if the Islanders want to avoid a horrifying must-win game against the Rangers on Tuesday, they're going to need to get something out of this game. And from that point on, as soon as that thought crossed my head, it was just as if the Islanders. We were always seeing, everybody who was watching that game started seeing demons. Like they were just demons pouring out of every part of that building yesterday. And they were all wearing either zebra stripes or Dallas Stars green or Rangers red and white and blue. Like it was, this was a haunting hour of hockey that we all had to sit through for the last stage of this tragic. It was a Shakespearean tragedy against the Dallas Stars on a February night. Like you want to usually your Shakespearean tragedy games come in like game 6
right
of a hard fought playoff series. Gary Roberts suplexes somebody into the boards, or Darcy Tucker low bridges someone, or Lubomir Wisnowski's career ends. Like those things usually happen in the playoffs. Like, but we got a full blown Shakespearean. We were at the Globe Theater for losers on Sunday night from that point on, because they couldn't catch a break, and we couldn't catch a break, and it made me so it felt weird and wrong, and we hate griping about things afterwards. You just can't. You guys got to move on. Like you can't protest the league and be like, let's play that again, unless you're the Rangers, really.
Or Penguins for that matter.
Right, yeah. Like you can't do it. But this one, it was really hard not to do that after this one. Really, really hard.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned a hit before, and this is where the game turns. Casey Cizikas goes into the corner with Leon Bichel, rookie defenseman for the Stars, and Bichel sort of reaches for the puck, like kind of a rat in the front of Cizikas. Cizikas drives into him. I thought he put his shoulder into Beckel's Bechel's shoulder, but he goes down, stays down on the ground for a while. Cizikas eventually fights Matt Dumba, and it's called an illegal check to the head. They give Cizikas a major. They review it. They determine, yes, it's a major, and they give him a game misconduct, and they throw him out. He and Dumba also got majors for fighting, so it ends up being a 4-on-4 for 2 minutes somehow, and then the Stars get a 3-minute power play out of it. Whatever. Somehow that all worked out. We don't really complain about refs that much on this show. We do maybe, twice a season at the most. We've ever complained about refs. Reffing a hockey game is incredibly difficult. I would not want to do it. You're never right, even when you're right. It's the worst thing ever. And so we give these guys a ton of rope. Things happen. This seemed to me like a bit of an egregious overreaction to this hit. I was thinking to myself, well, they're not going to give him them. They're not going to keep the major and give them misconduct. Like, what would the minor even be for this? Interference? I don't even know. Boarding, something like that. Nope, they threw him out of the game. And if you listen to 32 Thoughts today, Elliot Friedman goes into the rule book and he's like, there is no such thing as a major for a hit to the head. You can only get a minor or game misconduct, which makes no sense whatsoever. And so he did not think it was a suspendable hit. I don't think most people thought it was a suspendable hit. Apparently, the Stars broadcast had an angle that made it look much more like Casey had hit Bechel in the head. It's possible. Again, it to me, it didn't. I'm not saying Casey's innocent. Obviously, he was trying to like push this guy off the puck and get him down the ice. I'm sure it was. I don't think he was trying to hit anybody in the head. It's a shame that he fell the way he did, and I don't think he came back to the game. And again, Dumbo wanted to fight him. All right, whatever, fine. But it was tough. And listen, Casey's not had the best Casey Cizikas season, that's for sure. But you lose a pretty key player for the rest of the game. With the halfway point now, this is going to be bad. And of course, the Islanders had basically righted their penalty kill, which was so awful for the first half of the season. But the, I guess, shock of losing this whole Cizikas in this whole mess leads to 2 more Jason Robertson goals and completing the hat trick. The first one was a beautiful tic-tac-toe play from Matt Duchene and Rope Hintz. And then he picked up a Wyatt Johnson rebound. And before you know it, a period that was tied halfway through is now 4-2 Dallas. And there's no Casey Cizikas. The Islanders have kind of been, swimming to keep their heads above water this whole game. They managed to keep it tied. The points mean a hell of a lot more to the Islanders than they do the Stars, who are pretty comfortably in a playoff spot right now. And this is a point where you start to feel the game really slipping away. The Shakespearean part will come, I think, in the third period. But right now it feels pretty bad. And again, just to reiterate what I was saying before, I did not miss this. Like this version of the Islanders that's constantly one mistake away from complete derailment is a version that I would really like to see eliminated. I don't want this anymore. And it's happening again. It happened again.
And it doesn't even matter who makes the mistake.
Nope.
They might not even be Islanders.
Right. It might not even be a mistake. It was just a hit. Like, it just happens.
That wasn't a hit. The mistake was made by the refs. Like that's so even when that happens, and I texted somebody during the review. I was just like, this is a classic 2 goals on the major power play situation, because when the Islanders get a 5-minute major power play, they don't score on it.
Nope.
But I mean, I can think of one situation where they made hay on it, which was last year against Montreal, and then they still lost that game in regulation on the Pierre Engvall turnover and Patrick Waugh's return game, which maybe explains why Waugh doesn't like Pierre Engvall. Now that I think about it, it just dawned on me. Ruined his return. It couldn't have been more obvious that the Stars were going to score at least 2 goals on this thing, and they did. The Islanders, having Ryan Pulock and Scott Mayfield back. What was funny was, you said, right, they kind of righted the ship on the power play, on the penalty kill for a little bit there.
Yeah. And
those 2 guys have been out of the lineup for that. So I was like, oh, great. But not solely putting the blame on them at all. But the hit, like that hit should not be called a major penalty. I mean, if you want to flex your muscles and be like, we can't have this kind of hit in the game, like we're protecting the head, you can give them a minor for like charging. You can find something in the rule book to not completely misshape the game in one team's favor, because it's 2-2. And as you said, like the Islanders they're playing the Dallas Stars. They're playing a Western Conference opponent. It's a Sunday night in February. There's still 20-something games left.
The Stars had already played Saturday in New Jersey and got a win in regulation. Yeah. So this trip for them was already a success in a sense,
Yeah, there was like it was just a massively important game for the Islanders, even though on the schedule it just does not look like one at all. Like you can look at it and be like, was it that big a deal? Yeah, it was a huge deal because of what's to come now in a week and a half, which is the trade deadline, who they have coming up in the schedule the next few games. And it wasn't their fault that they lost this game, I would say. Now, one of the themes of this season has been that the Islanders have completely forfeited the right to getting the benefit of the doubt or getting moral victory points, right?
Right.
We've talked about this, and that's what is so frustrating about this game, because you
Yeah.
want this to be like a galvanizing. They lost. It should anger them, and they should use this to try, come pull into form down the stretch. But the problem is they don't have the luxury of that kind of like rah-rah situation,
Yeah.
because the Islanders from the first 3 months of the season ruined that for everybody with the way they played. And had the Islanders not done that, this is not a moment where you're angry at the hockey gods, you're angry at the refs, and you feel like they could have just cost you the season. You're just mad because this happens.
Mm.
Once a season, you'll get hosed,
Mm.
and you move on and hope that the team kind of can rally around it.
Mm.
But the Islanders from the first 3 months of the season have they've ruined that, right? They've just completely ruined it. Like, you can't even look. They lost the 2 points,
Mm.
and you can certainly make an argument that it wasn't their fault, but it doesn't matter because
Mm.
the Islanders, who blew the games to the Ducks and the Blue Jackets and the
Yeah.
Blues and the Red Wings and the Utah Hockey Club and the Blackhawks, like
Yeah.
that, it's I'm mad at them because of this. So
Well, when you spend half a season hosing yourself,
right,
you can't really get mad when you get hosed
Ex-
by the refs. Like, you just can't. And
Yes.
it's even assuming that you thought that they did get hosed by the refs. Like,
Yeah.
you can't. They've spent this whole time hosing themselves, because again, they're always one goal or one injury or one bad call or one penalty kill away from losing a game. This is how they live. They live on the edge. This is no way to live. We have to stop living this way. We can't deal with this. Oh, Cizikas is out for the rest of the game. Oh, there's 2 power play goals for Jason Robinson. Guess that's it. What? No, like, that doesn't mean it's it. And in fairness, they did try in the third period. The first half of the third period, they didn't do anything. And this is where I started getting a little bit annoyed, because the Stars, and again, I'm a fan, not a fan of the uniforms, to be honest with you, but I am a fan of the team. I think they play a fun style, and I like a lot of their players. They play with a great deal of confidence. And I know it's a simple, stupid thing, but they're constantly like driving to the net. They play with speed. They're not blazingly fast, but they're constantly in motion. They're constantly moving stuff around, and they always know where the other guy's going to be. Barry Trotz always preached predictability, knowing where the other guy was going to be, so that he was available for you to make a pass to or to help you out. And like that second Robertson goal, the tic-tac-toe play from Duchesne and Hintz, or Hintz and Duchesne, whatever, like, they knew where Robertson was going to be. He was wide open, totally available for them, and he just potted probably 2 of the easier goals he's ever going to score. The other one was like, he kind of jammed it home, again, from a rebound. But like, the Islanders simply don't play that way. And I forget if it was in the third or the second period. They spent, like, I want to say a full minute in their own zone. And I forget who the defenseman, and there was 2 defensemen and a forward. And these 3 guys basically were playing a game of, no, you take it. No, you take it. No, dude, no, you take it. No, I'm good. You take it. No, I'm serious. You take it. I want you to take it. No, I got it. You take it. Like, what? No, you can't move the puck towards the other net. Please, I'm begging you, do something. They don't play with any sort of confidence or flow or predictability or anything. And it was driving me nuts in this game, particularly against an opponent that does do that. And for the first half of the third period, they didn't do jack shit. They kind of went around, a lot of one and dones in the offensive zone. Ottinger was good, but they didn't really have any chances. They were just sort of there. All of a sudden, Anthony Duclair basically takes a shot, chases down his own rebound, scores on his own backhand from the slot, and all of a sudden it's 4-3. And you're like, oh, okay, well, that's a surprise. Maybe they are ready here. Maybe they are going to make a statement and say, listen, we know what time of the year it is. We know that next week some of these guys might not be here. We know how far out of the playoff spot, how far out of a playoff spot we are. We it took a while. We've been off for 2 weeks. We're getting there. We can make this work. And they start playing a little bit better. All of a sudden, JG Pajot ties the game, until it was decided that he didn't tie the game, because Pierre Engvall was in the crease. He and I want to say Dumba, might have been somebody else, where there was Engvall, defenseman, and then Ottinger. And immediately the goal was waved off for goaltender interference. And so, you went from the jubilation of the tied game to being like, oh, this is done. But then you thought to yourself, okay, you look at the replay, maybe they'll challenge this. Maybe they'll get away with this and it'll get overturned, because we've seen it get overturned all the time. And teams challenge these goals for the Islanders and they get overturned. Maybe they'll do something. And then they talk for a second. You saw Waugh and I guess Tommy Albaline or one of the other assistant coaches talking over for a second. And then it was a face-off. And they just went right to it. And I got to tell you, in our group chat online, there was a little bit of incredulousness as to why Patrick Waugh did not challenge this goal. And he talked about it afterwards. It was the first couple of questions of his presser. And basically what it amounted to was them saying, like, we thought the goal was going to get called back because he was in the crease. Now, Engvall was in the crease, make no mistake. Wasn't egregious, but we've seen basically if somebody's in the crease, it's not going to count. It's going to be goalie interference. And so that's the way they felt it was. And that might be true, but I think what we've been saying this whole time is like, this is a team that hoses itself all the time, shoots itself in the foot, gives itself no chance to win. Even if you challenge this play and you lose, and then you have to kill a power play, for the Stars, isn't that better than just not challenging it at all? It just seemed like a bit of a white flag moment at a time when you would have liked to have seen even just a defiant challenge. Oh, Waugh said, sorry, one other thing he said was like, it should be up to basically the Stars to challenge that it was not a goal rather than him and them challenging that it was, which I kind of get the logic of, but at the same time, I still would have challenged it.
Yeah. I think you're right. Like we saw a goal already like this cost the Islanders 2 points against Seattle. Like I know it wasn't similar. It wasn't like a defenseman getting pushed in, but it was a guy going into the crease on his own, bumping. I don't remember who was playing goal in that game, whether it was Sorokin or Varlamov. And we're like, oh, well, the entire first couple months of the season, every time a goaltender interference call has been made, we know what they're looking for. Did the guy go into the blue paint on his own and cause disruption and like the goalie's making a save? It ticked every box. And you're like, okay, the Islanders are going to get this game to overtime, which is good. They deserve the points in this game against Seattle. Actually, no, the goal counts. And we're like, what? It's so mad. And I was like, this during this situation, I was thinking, yeah, this is probably goalie interference. Like Engvall goes into the crease on his own, but there's also a defenseman going in there with him. And he's not like he's not he doesn't engage with Dumba. Like he doesn't like push him into the goalie. The two are just kind of skating together and
they just happen to skate into the crease. Basically.
Right. There's enough of a gray area here where I think, okay, this could count for the Islanders. Like this absolutely could count, and you just got to challenge it in that situation. I think it'd be very different. Like if the Islanders were up 2-1, and there's like 3 minutes left, I would say you would probably not challenge it because you want to avoid going on the penalty kill, even if it was like earlier in the game maybe. But with 4 minutes left, you just do it, and that's what it all added to the bizarreness of this entire game. Like, I was just like, okay, they're gonna challenge it. They're probably gonna lose. I'm setting myself up for disappointment, but they're obviously going to challenge it. And then when the puck dropped, it was like, okay, we're just gonna move on here. And the craziest part about this was JG Pageau had the puck. Had a goal on his stick like 8 or 9 times in that game.
Yes.
Like 8 or 9 times. Just all he had to do was make a connection with the puck with his stick, and it's in the back of the net. Brock Nelson had a couple too.
One shift where he had like 3 chances.
Yeah, I think it was on the power play. I think it was on the power play, which is still doesn't score.
Right.
And he finally scores, and you're like, wow. And then immediately it's waved off. Immediately waved off by the same ref that made the call to Cizikas too. So you're like, oh my God, like this is just. It's a cursed game. And as you said, like that third period, the Islanders get the goal from Duclair, who desperately needed something good to happen to him. He does. It was a nice play. Horvat had a great shift on that play too. And you're starting to think, wow, man, if they can find a way to get this game to overtime, this is the type of point that you look back on and you're just proud. No matter what happens in overtime, you're just proud of them getting it. It could be a massive point. Pajot scores, and in the second and a half, 2 seconds between them saying he scores, oh no, he's waving it off. In my head, I was like, "There's no way that the Islanders could tie this game. Like something's going to happen here. Like this is going to be offsides or something." And then obviously it comes back, and you spend the last. The Islanders aren't going to score at 6-on-5. They just don't do that. They make it look incredibly hard to do anything at 6-on-5, which is something else that.
Yeah.
And anytime the game is thrown off from 5-on-5, the Islanders just seem to lose it. Even one of the funny parts of the game was that 4-on-4 before the major started. The Islanders had the puck the entire time.
Yeah.
The entire time. I was like, well, what? These guys, they understand the assignment here. They know that there's going to be a power play that the Stars are going to definitely score twice on, so they better get one. Right. And it looked like they were going to. And then as soon as the power play started for the Stars, it's like the Islanders like, oh, yeah, well, we're on the penalty kill now, and you know what that means.
Yeah.
Can't do anything about it.
I was going to say that the cruelest twist was the final one, which was the Islanders get a power play late in the game.
Yes.
And it was on a delay for quite a while. And while it was on a delay, they looked terrific. They were whipping it around. I think Nelson might have had a chance or two here. And they got a couple of really quality chances off. The Stars took possession. And then the power play, which included an empty net and a sixth attacker to the Stars' 4 defenders, did absolutely nothing. And like the Stars had, I think, 2 or 3 cracks at the empty net, didn't hit one. The game ends up, being 4-3. But I was like, wait a minute, hold on a second. You guys, with the delay, with the ref's arm in the air, you were determined to get that tying goal. And now that the power play has actually begun and you have another attacker, an extra attacker on top of the one you would already be having, now you decided you're not interested anymore. Like they're dumping in, there's not going after it. They're just giving the puck up right away. And then defenseman kicks it down the ice. And, they're lucky in a way it didn't go in for an empty net goal, but it didn't really matter. And it was just so frustrating. And like you said, that I totally forgot about that 4-on-4. They were great for the 4-on-4. They were terrific. And then the Stars power play starts, and then they just give up two of the easiest goals Jason Robertson's going to score all year. Like, what are we doing here?
I don't know. We're just getting smited all the time. And so they lose the game. And I'll say I was really sour after that one. Like I say it all the time, but you deserve a ton of credit if you're an Islander fan. Whether you're an Islander fan for this being your first season, or you've been around since the dynasty or since 1972 or 2000, whenever you started, like because it's just gonna ding you up. It's gonna no matter the type of personality you are and the way you look at the world. Being a fan of this specific team, it's gonna dent your soul, and that is going to pour into other parts of your life. It's impossible to completely compartmentalize this team from the rest of your life because of what you have to go through on a run-of-the-mill regular season game against an out-of-conference opponent. Right? Like this was
the night before.
Yeah, but this should have been this game. We should have just gotten through. The Islanders would win or they lose, and you just get through it. They're playing the goddamn Dallas Stars. You're playing the Dallas Stars, good team, hard fought loss, whatever. But it could be a million different things, but it's always the million and first thing, the thing that you still, even though you've seen everything, can't see coming. And this is a whole new one, right. And all it does is open up a new can of worms, so that when we watch the next game, you're like, well, I can't be happy right now. I can't rest or relax while I'm watching the game, even if they're ahead or they're playing well and maybe it's tied or they're behind one. And you're like, oh, because it doesn't matter. Yeah. Because this team, Zeus is going to throw a lightning bolt down during the middle of the game at some point and cause something to happen that you're just that's going to come completely out of left field. It's going to ruin your week. It's going to ruin your goddamn week.
Yeah.
So you go to. I went to bed and I was mad. Um, and what's so bizarre is I'm like wrestling internally with the fact that I am mad at the Islanders from 5 months ago. Like, I'm not even mad at the Islanders who played the game that night. I'm
Right.
mad at the Islanders who played in October and November. I'm mad at those guys.
Right.
Um, I'm mad at fucking Grant Hutton, basically. You know, like why am I mad at Grant Hutton? He just
You
hasn't
could be
played for the
mad at
team in a long time.
Dennis Cholowski. He's back in Bridgeport. He
He's
scored.
scoring goals for
Yeah.
Bridgeport. Yeah. And like, but I will say, I woke up and I was in a much better mood because, like, this game, as we're going to talk about, this game might just not matter. It just might not matter. It just might be a game we laugh about for years and years and years. Next season, when the Islanders begin playing in the 2021, 2022, 2022, 2023, 2023, 2024, 2024, 2025, 2025, 26 season,
God help
they're
us.
going to have a game where we're like, do you know what this game reminds me of?
Yeah.
Remember that time where the ceiling caved in and Casey Cizikas got chucked out of the game, and there were locusts and writing blood on their lamp doorposts because of the plagues that were going, all the 7 plagues that happened against the Dallas Stars. This game against the Carolina Hurricanes reminds me of that one. So I because it doesn't matter, because what the Islanders have coming up is what matters. It is like they've got these 4 games, all 4 of them are winnable, and then it's the trade deadline. And these 4 games are going to decide everything. They're just it is. And so I had this thought where I was like, I can be as mad as I want. I can be bitter. I'm really good at that when it comes to the Islanders, and cynical and sad, and get hung up on the game from the night before and let it ruin my mood. Or I can just root for them for these last 4 games, because this is probably it till October. and that's what I'm going. I'm like, it's go down with the ship time here. So and that, I gotta say, just made my mood just snap right back into form. So as it might sound like I'm lying through my teeth because of the way that this podcast has sounded so far, but I was pretty perky today thinking about the Islanders. Like, let's go beat the brakes off the Rangers, save our season on Tuesday night, then save it again on Thursday night, and then do the impossible, which is beat the Nashville Predators, which we never beat, win a matinee, which never happens, and win it in front of tons of kids. Because whenever the kids come to UBS Arena is when the Islanders play their worst, because half the kids belong to the Islanders team. So yeah, that's my way of getting through this loss, is just trying to focus on this 4-game, do or die stretch that the Islanders have coming up.
Yeah. This in a lot of ways feels like the season in a nutshell, but I mean, I feel like we've said that multiple weeks this year. Also, if it makes you feel any better, weird shit always happens when the Islanders and Stars get together. This has been a truism for at least 10 years. Dallas was the place where Franz Nielsen had his one and only NHL hat trick, if I'm not mistaken. I think Matt Molson scored four goals in a different game against the Stars one time. Like, weird shit always happens against these 2 teams, and that's why I kind of one of these days hope that we see a Dallas Islanders Stanley Cup final, because it will definitely be the 7 weirdest games that have ever been played in NHL history. But yeah, this one I wrote unfortunate but sloppy. I mean, the Islanders weren't great, but they didn't play that poorly. But so much of what happened was unfortunate. I thought Sorokin actually played pretty well. He had 25 saves, and honestly, most of those goals he barely didn't even have a chance on. Like, it just, the couple of those Robertson goals, what are you going to do? I mean, he's literally wide open by himself over there. And then Ottinger was great in the third, and he really had to do a whole lot in the first 2 periods. And he ended up having to make 35 saves. The Islanders ended up out shooting the Stars. So, like, there was a lot to like about this game, but it's just so much more of the same. Again, it's just so much more of the same. We don't deserve this. Like, we don't deserve to have to draw blood from a stone 82 games a year for 4 years. Like,
Right.
It doesn't have to be this way. It can be different. And we're not going to talk a lot about the trade deadline this week. We're going to have a whole next week, and we'll talk about the trade deadline then and stuff. But like, we are going to talk later on about the sort of overall ramifications about making big changes to the Islanders. And like, one of those changes might be, bad. Like it might end up going poorly, but if they can get to a point where we don't have to see this clawing and scratching and again just trying to claw and peck your way towards a 1-goal victory, I would really like that. Like we've done there, we've been there, we've done that. We've done the even when they were that defensive buzzsaw, they still didn't win games like this. They still won games 3-1, 4-0. Like they still had more offense than they have right now. And it doesn't have to be this way. And after watching, I know it's a bad comparison, but like after watching the Four Nations team, after watching what the Stars are capable of doing and other teams are capable of doing, we just saw the Jets, hell, even the Wild have an exciting team for the most part this year. It doesn't have to be this way anymore. We don't have to live like this. We shouldn't have to live like this anymore. And I'm tired of it. How the hell do the players feel? Like, gosh, again, one penalty and the whole thing goes off the rails. Like, it's got to be exhausting. But again, we've spent 45 minutes talking about one game.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a microcosm of like the last 4 years of Islanders life.
Exactly. That's exactly the point, right? Like this game, it feels like a little bit of an inflection point, not only for their season, because like you can absolutely draw a line after this game and say the next 4 games because of who they're coming up against and
Right.
what looms on the other side, which is the trade deadline pretty quickly after that, I think. Right. It's they play Tuesday against the Rangers, Thursday Bruins, Saturday Predators, Tuesday Rangers, and then they don't play again until the deadline, if I'm not mistaken.
Something like that, probably, yeah.
You can draw a line through this game. So and of course it's the only game that they played for this week of the podcast. So it's really appropriate that it does serve as a microcosm that the Islanders they're not just going up against the 31 other teams in the NHL this season. They're not. I don't know. It sounds whiny and petty and typical sports fan woe is me isms. But if you've watched this team for 56, 57 games, whatever it's been, you know that they're fighting forces. They're fighting some demons. Like they see the demons out there. And in some ways it's almost impressive that they're still alive in this season, despite having the 32nd best penalty kill, 32nd best power play, and all these bounces go against them. So it in a way it is impressive, but even if these 4 games go well and the Islanders are salvage something and they're able to draw the blood from a stone, it doesn't mean it's going to be like a I will put it into cruise control and make the playoffs, right? It just means that they're just like still in it, and that means that they're still fighting against the gods and the 31 other teams, and at times whoever that French Canadian ref was last night. So it's as you said, it's like exhausting. You can hear it in your voice. You're just like,
yeah,
it's exasperating. And yeah, there's nothing any of us can do about it at all. It's and one last thing on that game last night to kind of wrap it all together too, on this whole season-long theme of this being the same exact season from last year and the year before and the year before. The Islanders won 7 games in a row. And then they lost to the Florida Panthers, and we were like, you know what? Schedule loss. They did their best. Jacob Skarek was in goal.
Yeah.
They were never going to win that game. And we kind of gave them a pass for winning it. And we referenced something, which was last year when the Islanders won 6 or 7 games in a row. And then they lost to the Los Angeles Kings on a second night of a back-to-back.
Right.
We're like, Kings are good.
Yeah.
They're on the road. It's the end of the road trip. Very successful road trip. They get a pass for it. And the Islanders then lost 6 or 7 in a row to completely ruin the long winning streak. Well, they've now lost 4 of 5.
Yep.
So they're doing it again.
Yep.
They're doing it again. They're doing it again. They're doing it again. They're doing it again, I think is what I'm trying to say. So that too was crossing my mind. So yeah, they are not, this is not an equal fight. The Islanders are going up against something far more powerful than themselves, and they will continue to do so, even if they do win these games and hold on to guys and such. So
Yeah.
It's not going to get easier unless they do finally just pull the chute.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I know what my answer is, and I knew what it was as soon as they lost that game on Sunday. I was like, well, that's all you need to know. But I'm not Lou Lamoriello, so I don't know. Okay, that was very well put. Doing it again is probably the theme of this season again. We are going to take a break. We're going to come back and look at those upcoming games and a couple of other topics as well related to I guess, I don't know, a bunch of stuff. I forgot, but we'll get to there. So meet us on the other side. Thanks. And now a word from our sponsors. First is always VintageIceHockey.com, where you can get t-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, and more featuring over 100 classic hockey logos. Vintage Ice Hockey now carries a full line of Islanders Anxiety merch featuring our blue and orange brain logo, as well as our Al Arbor and the Island shirts. And as always, our portion of the sales go directly to the Center for Dementia Research. That is VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. They offer a Rosé, a Pinot Grigio, and a Pinot Noir that was named a Top 100 Best Buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. All are delicious, priced at less than $15 a bottle, and available at local wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinotproject.com. Please drink responsibly.
Hey, it's Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast here to tell you about Michelob Ultra Courtside. It's getting fans closer to the NBA with a chance to win prizes like courtside seats, a trip to All-Star Weekend, and much more. Check it out at MichelobUltra.com/courtside. Michelob Ultra Superior Access, Courtside 24-25 sweepstakes, no purchase necessary. Open to U.S. residents 21 and up. Begins on October 1st, 2024, ends July 1st, 2025. Multiple entry periods. Visit MichelobUltra.com/courtside for free entry deadlines, and official rules. Message and data rates may apply. Void where prohibited.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
Every cup of Nespresso coffee is an invitation to transform your morning routine into a ritual you can treasure each and every day. Using the Virtuo Pop, a simple touch of the button freshly brews bold aromas and a rich, velvety crema layer for delicious cafe-quality coffee at home. Whether you enjoy your coffee hot or over ice, every sip, every morning is unforgettable. Nothing tastes like Nespresso coffee. Visit Nespresso.com or our app to explore our full range of easy-to-use machines and coffees not found anywhere else.
So good, so good, so good.
Great brands, great prices. Everyone's got a reason to rack.
Because they have framed jeans.
Nike? Yes.
Just so many good brands.
Vince, Kurt Geiger London, Rag & Bone, and more are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. You never know what you'll find, but you know it's going to be so good. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
So as we've been talking about, the Islanders have 3 more games this week. They play the Rangers on Tuesday night, the day you're probably listening to this. That's at UBS Arena. And then they are in Boston on Thursday. And Mike, I got a hot take for you. Are you ready for this? You know I'm not a hot take artist. We've done this show a long time. And I'm not prone to hot takes, but I have a hot take for you. Are you ready for my hot take?
Yeah, let me just put on my seatbelt here.
Yes.
All right, I'm ready.
You ready? Okay. Here's my hot take. The Islanders will defeat the Nashville Predators on Saturday afternoon at UBS Arena. It's 12:30 start. Again, a lot of things working against them here. It's Nashville. It's a matinee game. It's like Kids Day or whatever it is. I really do feel this time the Islanders will take it, but as we've been discussing, it's not up to me. It's not even up to the Islanders. It's up to the hockey gods. Let's park the Nashville game for a second, talk about the Rangers and Bruins, a couple of classic rivals for the Islanders here. Oh man, the Rangers are weird. Like you watch them, I don't. I can't deal with it. But sometimes it sounds like they're back, and then sometimes they lose 8-2 to Buffalo. Like I don't even know who this team is. The Islanders have a pretty good record against the Rangers, so I mean I could see them totally winning this game and stopping that slide. But then the good news, and the other reason I could see them doing that is because the next game is in Boston, where they almost never win, although I think they won last year there. So these two games here, what do you think is the more likely of them to win? At home against the Rangers that can almost never be understood by man, or the game in Boston where the Islanders generally lose and look like idiots in the process, except for that one playoff series where they won?
I don't know. I know it's a cop out. I've got no idea what to expect from these three games, and I know where we'll talk about the next Ranger game on the next week's episode, but lumping that one in too, I have no idea what to expect because the teams that they're playing are as strange as the Islanders are. I don't think they're as cursed as the Islanders are. Like Ranger fans think they've had a cursed season. No, your general manager just put everybody on blast on Facebook like in 2007 or something. It was like I don't want to trade my captain, and I blackmailed the Sharks to taking Barclay Goodrow very publicly, and that's causing your own demise. So the Islanders have had this cursed season. The Rangers think they've had a cursed season. The Bruins are falling apart at the seams. Elliot Friedman, I think today, was saying that the Bruins have let it be known that they're waving the white flag, and I feel like every time a team says that, it's they immediately rip off like 8 wins in a row. It's like when a GM makes that public, the team hears it, and then they're like, "Well, we got to prove them wrong." And so like you got the Bruins doing that song and dance as well, and then of course the Predators, who've had a terrible season, but they're the Islanders bogey team, and they're playing them in front. And like you said, on Kids Day, the Islanders are 0 for 26 all time on Kids Day. So you know how that'll go. So there's so many intangible circumstances taking place here that it makes it impossible to figure out what version of any of these teams is going to show up on a given night. I will say that like the Islanders need to win 3 out of 4 of these next 4 games, and those wins pretty desperately need to come against the teams in the Eastern Conference,
right?
As well, when you size up their situation, which I do think matters too, right? Like the Islanders look a lot farther out of it than they really are in my mind, when you consider what's ahead of them. The two teams holding on to the wild card spots right now, Ottawa's lost 4 in a row, and they look pretty shell shocked after the 4 Nations, which has ravaged the Kachucks, and a few other players are hurt.
Yeah,
the Red Wings are red hot still, but I mean, look, all credit to them if they can keep it going. But I don't think anybody would be shocked if the Red Wings throw in like 4 clunkers in a row and all of a sudden come back down to earth. We just talked about how the Rangers and the Bruins are in the midst of their own like weird spirals, and then there's the Blue Jackets, who are just have been impressive and plucky, but like the Red Wings, would you be shocked if Columbus just kind of falls back down to earth as well? So like there is a path here for the Islanders. They just have to go and take it, and they've done that once this season with the 7-game winning streak, where they did go out there and take it, but then they followed that up with 4 of 5 losses, and they're currently on a 3-game losing streak, and they've got every chance to play their way back right into the mix, and they can do it against their biggest rival, and then another team that's directly ahead of them in the playoff race. But you can't be confident that they're going to do that, and even if they do play well, you can't be confident that that's going to translate into a win,
right? Because
a ref could deem Casey Cizikas tried to decapitate a player who's 6 or 7 inches taller than him and completely throw off a game, or a puck could, Adam Fox could rim a puck around the the
Right.
boards, and he'll hit a stanchion and go in and with like a minute left in the third period to win the Rangers a game, right? Like this stuff can happen. And at this point I almost expect it to. So all of that is to say I got no idea, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but I don't even, you can tell me that it's better for the team to lose all 4 of these games, and I think you have a valid point, or you can tell me that that's ludicrous and that you should never root for that, and I would usually side with that person, and but like nobody knows what to make of this season at all. Like Patrick Waugh is the Islanders head coach. No, this is it's always going to be weird here.
Right.
And that man must just, as we say like all the time, he just must be so confused that he now sees how the other half lives. Like, what am I watching here? And what can happen next?
Right.
And I got news for him. A lot can happen next, and I expect it to only get weirder from here, considering the opponents coming up. So
yeah.
I mean, it would be great. It would be great if they can find a way to beat the Rangers on Tuesday night and build some momentum going into the trade deadline. But I have no expectations at all. I'm just, like I said, I'm just going to root for them and go down with the ship here for these last 4 games of the season before it's truly over.
It would be very Islanders for people to be like, or for people to write, oh, this Rangers season is terrible. Oh my God, this team is unwatchable and they have no game plan and it's awful. And then for them to just beat the Islanders easily. And then for Elliot Friedman to be like, oh, the Bruins are waving the white flag. And then for them to beat the Islanders easily. Like, that's just the kind of the way it can go. But that being said, I mean, I could see a scenario in which the Islanders do play well enough to beat one or both of these teams. Probably, again, most likely the Rangers. But this is the worst possible time to be playing. Any time is the worst possible time to be playing either of these 2 teams. But it could. This is, if they lose one or both of these games, we're starting to inch towards, we're gonna have to start selling people off at the deadline. And then, of course, on Saturday there is the Nashville Predators. Do you want to take a guess at the Predators' all-time winning percentage versus the New York Islanders? I won't ask you for their actual record, but do you want to know what their winning percentage is in all-time games against the Islanders?
Yeah, can you tell me how many games they played? What, like 28?
35 games.
35 games
since
their winning percentage
or whatever. Yeah.
God, it's got to be close to like 680 or something.
You're very close. 700.
Oh my God.
The Predators in 35 games against the Islanders are 23, 9, and 3. Somehow they've lost 3 overtime games to the Islanders. I don't remember any of them. This was been during the friggin' Trent Hunter years. I don't know what the hell when that was, but 23, 9, and 3. That's actually not the best winning percentage in Predators history. That would be against the Columbus Blue Jackets, who, remember, they used to share a division with back when Columbus was a Western Conference team. So they have 102 games played against the Jackets, 70 wins, 23 losses for
Jesus.
730 winning percentage. And then actually, believe it or not, right below the Islanders with 618 are the Montreal Canadiens, who the Predators are 17, 9, 1, and 7 against in 34 games. So almost about with the Islanders. The Devils are right behind them with 615. So the Predators love playing in the Eastern Conference. They love playing in the New York, the Long Island, New Jersey metro area. The Rangers have a good record against them, but that's about it. They're 17, 17, 1, and 2. So they have an even record against the Predators, but it's better than the Islanders or Devils have. So yeah, a game against the Nashville Predators is never, ever, ever what the Islanders want to see. But as you said, they have been bad this year, and I think this might be the year. So after talking about how the hockey gods have screwed the Islanders left and right, and how the Islanders have screwed themselves left and right all season long, for some reason, I look at these 3 games and I'm like, you know what? They could take 2 out of 3 here. But then, even then, where does that leave them? I mean, they're 4 points out of the playoffs right now? Like, even if they take 2 of those 3, let's say they take all 3, you're still going to be 3 points behind Detroit, 4 points behind Columbus, whatever they do. Like, and so, like you said, if people think that, screw it, who cares? Just sell all these guys off. I totally get it. But if you're like, but we're right there. They're right there. They could win these games and be right in the playoffs mix. I could see that too. It just sucks. It's just, again, we're trying to draw. This is the macro trying to draw blood from a stone. Like, we're just trying to squeeze this season out so that we've got one drop above that line, and then they're in the playoffs, and then they got to play, the Leafs or whoever it is.
Right.
So it's awful.
Oh,
but
man.
yeah,
it's
this is how they hook you. I still think they can win these games.
yeah, they can. Like they should. Like I don't think it's crazy to say, like, I mean, you know what's crazy to think too is I don't know what's going to happen with Noah Dobson
Yeah.
if he's going to play tomorrow, because the Islanders have thrown Matt Martin on the IR, and I think that means that Matt Barzal will go on LTIR, and Hudson Fasching is just like allowed to be around the team. It's almost like the Islanders operate under the Four Nations rules, where they're just Lou just knows, like,
Right.
he knows that the NHL just isn't going to realize that Hudson Fasching is a person.
He's
So
not. They're
he's
not
like
allowed
kind
to
of on
see
the
him.
roster and
He
kind
can't
of
be
not.
seen.
Yeah, he's just hanging out. But they don't have Matt Barzal,
Yeah.
and we haven't even mentioned that. Like, they're doing this, and they have to do this without Barzal and maybe without Noah Dobson, so their best forward and then their best defenseman
Right.
are not on the team. And I still think, even with that being the case, like, maybe they're an inch better than the Rangers and the Bruins, and there's no reason for you to be like, there's no way that they can win these 2 games in a row and set themselves up for a really big game on Saturday in front of all these kids that they can then absolutely blow against the Predators. And as I said before, like, it looks a lot worse than it is. The Senators are 5 games above NHL 500, and the Red Wings are 7. The Blue Jackets are 5. So essentially, if you look at it and think about it in baseball terms, they're like 4 games back with 26 games to go. So yeah, there's runway here if they can take care of business. But the fork in the road here is that they need to pick a direction before next Friday, because that's the trade deadline, and these 4 games are set up perfectly for them to be able to pick that direction. But as we know, like, it's just not going to be that simple. Like, if for example, if you switch the Islanders, if this was a Columbus Blue Jackets podcast, we could just say, yeah, just go out and win those games, like, play better than these teams, and all should, you should be fine. But when it comes to this team, like, yeah, there are situations that are worse than the Islanders. There are franchises that have it worse than the Islanders, but I just don't think anyone has it weirder than the Islanders, to the point where I think that going into tomorrow, I'll be like, well, just play well tomorrow, and we'll trust the process, and everything else will take care of itself. That's not true at all. It's just not true. The Islanders could play a flawless game tomorrow against the Rangers and lose 5-1 because the Rangers get a bum 5-on-3 penalty in a 1-1 game in the third period, and then they score 2 empty net goals because they pulled the goalie early or whatever, right? And it could look 5-1, and the Islanders can outshoot the Rangers by 24. Right. And we could be sitting on this podcast next week and be like, well, they played well. They gave it their all, but they came up short against the Rangers, and it sucks. So, like, there's no straightforward answer here. It's just we just got to go back over the top. I know I love to throw those like World War I, World War II Band of Brothers analogies out there, but there's just no other choice here. You just you don't know what's coming for you on the other side of the top of that trench, of the other side of the barbed wire. Like, you just got to go and find out. And unfortunately, the first enemy we face is a hated rival that is just the opposite of cursed. It's so it's
I actually I read today that the Penguins may have the hardest to deal with situation in all of the NHL, because they've got to rebuild while also retaining the lovely and talented Sidney Crosby. So Kyle Dubas is doing things the right way by, I don't know, picking up Anthony Beauvillier. I don't know. I was like, why is that the hardest job in the NHL? Like, when you'll never get criticized for anything, that's hard. Like, I mean, come on.
Well, what choice did he have? He couldn't trade Sid.
Right.
He couldn't do that. He couldn't look. You're going to call Sidney Crosby into your office and tell the most winningest guy ever,
right,
the most beloved hockey player of all time, that you're gonna rebuild in his final years in a career in which he's already won 3 Stanley Cups, you're going to be the one to let's cut Dubas some slack, okay?
Right. Yeah.
Nobody has it harder than him, the guy
Yeah.
that had a contract extension lined up and then went on national television and berated his employer and then lied to everyone's face. That's the guy that's moving the game forward.
A guy who, spoiler alert from Dan's Islanders book club coming up this Friday, exclusively at patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety, a guy whose entire reputation as a general manager was forged by basically just bringing guys he had in junior hockey to the NHL. That was all. You played for Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds? Welcome to the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's the guy's entire reputation as an NHL general manager. I just, I wish I could remember the tweet because I was like,
no, I think I know what you're talking about. I believe it was, I think it was like something back I think it was from our good friend Josh Yowie.
Oh, maybe it was. No, I think it was somebody
was it
else.
Not that? He had a great back and forth on Twitter where he was telling people that they were being absurd for here's what it is. Here's what he said. He said, "I don't know who needs to hear this, but the Penguins are rebuilding right now. They have been since the day they sold Jake Gensel. Just because big names remain on the roster doesn't mean it isn't a 100% full on rebuild. It most certainly is." And then somebody was like, I don't think that's true because they're not trading anyone. And he's like, "You can't trade Sid. That's absurd." And just dunked on the guy. But it was
whenever you start a tweet with I don't know who needs to hear this, you're just basically saying like, listen up, assholes, and you're just being just a douche. Like, I don't know.
Yes.
What else to tell you.
Oh, here it is. Someone tweeted at him, full on rebuild means you have to trade Sid and every other vet no matter what. And he replies, "You don't have to trade Sid. That's absurd. I'm sure Dubas would trade the other vets, but many have no trade clauses that they won't remove. He's rebuilding as much as the situation allows." And then, and I know we're getting off track here, but I'm loving it. PK Subban, I guess, had criticized Dubas on the air, and the video was making the rounds, and professional liar Scott Wheeler came to his aid. I've seen this tweet going around a lot. The Penguins have 15 picks in the first 3 rounds of the next 3 drafts, more than any other team in the league. Blackhawks and Canadians have 14. Kyle has picked a lane. Kyle. My friend Kyle. My friend Kyle has picked a lane. But as you said, you think that's a tough situation. And then whatever. It's tricky, I guess. But what the Islanders have to deal with is, I mean, it's really hard when you consider who's making the decision. It's an 82-year-old man who could be in his last year as an NHL executive. I am in awe of Lou Lamoriello, right? Like, whatever, we know he's made mistakes and all that stuff, but I'm in awe that he is 82 years old. I still don't think that has sunk in on people because people laugh at it more than they realize how impressive it is. Like, he's 82, and I don't mean to be flippant when I say this. It's to the point where, like, Lou is at the age where if like tomorrow he can't work, everyone be like, yeah, it makes sense because he's 82. Like, he of course he can't work. He's 82. So they have an 82-year-old GM. They've got a franchise icon kind of in the middle of a existential crisis on whether he should be a one jersey player or not. The team is on this weird fringe playoff cut line. They've got a couple other guys that make up a huge part of the culture of the room that have some term left, but could definitely be traded if they wanted to refresh this thing. But if they do refresh it, it would be under a different GM than the 82-year-old man that I just said I'm in awe of. So, like, yeah, maybe the Penguins puzzle is a little trickier to solve, but this one is goddamn strange.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a right answer to it. Before you just won't know until 4 years from now.
Yeah, well, that's just what we were. I don't know how we got here, but I'm glad we did because this is where we wanted to get to. But yeah, I mean, we're all sitting here talking about, well, they got to trade Nelson, they got to do this, they got to do that, they got to get Lou out of here, and all that. You know, I mean, there's valuable and logical reasons for all of that stuff. I mean, I'm with you. Like, the fact that Lou was even here for this time is almost kind of a miracle, and I think he's done great things. But I mean, I'm kind of with a lot of people. I think it's time that we give into a new voice, but that new voice could also lead the Islanders to 10 straight years out of the playoffs. Like, there's no guarantee that the new voice or the guys that they get or whatever assets they get for Nelson, Palmieri, yada, 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 will lead the Islanders to anything other than what they are now, which is a team that's not Chicago level terrible, but not really all that good either, and just keeps shooting itself in the foot over and over again. And that doesn't say that they shouldn't make any changes. Like you said, if you don't go over that wall, you don't go over there, you're never going to know. But I do think, and we were talking about this before, I do think that there's people not quite understanding what that might mean and what those changes might mean, because it might get worse. It might get exponentially worse, and then you might start thinking, boy, remember when those 3 seasons felt like the exact same season? I kind of miss those days. It sounds stupid now because we're in the middle of it, but it is possible that could happen. Or they could get better. They could get super good in a year. They could be the Capitals next year and make a bunch of changes, and all of a sudden they're first place in the league. So you never know.
Yeah, but the one thing that will almost certainly happen is, like, if the Islanders do go for the let's make the changes route, the culture just completely changes, and because that's been Lou's superpower here. It hasn't been building a dynamic winner. They aren't going out there and beating the brakes off of teams, and they have it throughout his entire tenure. But what they have done is they've shown up to the rink and they've unmistakably looked like the Islanders, and they've sounded like the Islanders. And to the rest of the league, the rest of the league can point out the Islanders, and I'm not even being tongue in cheek about the beard thing or anything like that. They're the Islanders, like they are their own thing. There's no other team like them in the league, which is always cracks me up because everyone thinks that they are this this milquetoast group when they are the unique ones. They're the only ones that adhere to these kind of rules and running as tight a ship as this thing. So like Lou, let's just say they do, move on. Nelson goes, maybe Pajot and Palmieri go. That means that the Islanders, not only personnel wise, are going to look different, but they're going to feel different going forward. And maybe, like you said, it could be a good thing. We don't know until you go over the wall and see how it goes. But it will definitely take some getting used to, and it could go completely pear-shaped on them, completely pear-shaped. And we've said this a couple times throughout the years here, that for a long time, when the Islanders entered, when the league entered this analytics kind of revolution and the development of bigger data entering hockey and stuff like that, the idea of culture and identity was poo-pooed as like caveman thinking.
Right.
That's not a real thing because I can't show it to you on a player chart. Like there's no spider chart to show me what Kyle Palmieri's good in the room -ometer is, right? And so if you believed in that stuff, you kind of were weirdly labeled as like a pariah on the sport of hockey in the community. But I think what the Islanders have shown is that stuff matters so much to the general health of a franchise. And the Islanders, for most of my life, did not have an identity. They were the revolving door team. Mike Sillinger would show up one year. Hey, look, Richard Park's on the team now. Oh, that's cool. Evgeny Nabokov's here. I love Evgeny Nabokov, and I love him more now that he's an Islander. Chris Osgood's over there wearing red pads. John Van Breesbrook's here for a year. Marty Riesener's not scoring any goals for us right now. Like Milan Jurčina's here, and they're winning every game he plays. Like this was a weird team that had we had a mercenary era, we had a misfit era, we had an era where we drafted a guy before Victor Hedman and like brought in his friends, and it worked for a little while, but they still didn't win games. There was a really cool Danish guy here. There was all of this, but there was really no kind of like cohesive theme to the tapestry. Lamoriello famously says that a hockey team is like an orchestra, right? Like you need, there was no orchestra. There were some cool guys ripping solos on the side, great opera singer over there. Like there was all this stuff going on, but there was no orchestra. And right now there is an orchestra, and they all look very handsome and dapper with their clean shaven faces and their kids in the crowd. And they love going to each other's family parties and the identity of the Islanders has basically become rich Long Island dads, which is great on so many levels. Like the Islanders are going to the place that you and me and our friends can afford to go out like once a year on Long Island.
They
like
can
these
actually
guys are
shop
regulars
at the Belmont Retail Village.
Yeah, they
and
can
the
shop
rest
at
of
the
us can't.
Belmont
Yeah.
Village, right? Exactly. Like there is something here. Like I don't care who you are. You know it. Even when the team hasn't been playing all that well, there is something going on to the Islanders. Like there is a common thread that weaves through this team, and they've all bought in. And that is something that the Islanders did not have from 1994 to 2019, basically. So there's a risk that you just lose that, and and that's not something you can just go out and acquire. If you wanted to go get a number 2 center, you can just go get a number 2 center. You can't trade for that again. So you are staring down a very kind of difficult situation because everything here is intangible, is the culture in the room with us right now kind of stuff. That nobody can kind of pinpoint or has a direct answer for what the right answer is. And that's what makes this kind of next 14 days scary and fun. And as I said, like it does feel like a go down with the ship kind of moment, because I do think that if it does go the wrong direction here over these next 240 minutes or whatever of hockey, that all could be gone. Like that could be a thing that, like you said, we're just nostalgic for next 3 years from now. So
we are very much on the precipice of what might be an era of great change for the Islanders. Like it might be, it doesn't, we might be leading up to it. It might be just a week away from an era of great change for the Islanders. There are guys here who could be traded. The playoffs are certainly no guarantee. We don't know where they're going to finish anywhere. They have a general manager who may or may not be retained for next year. I don't know what his contract status is, but I mean, all it takes is one phone call from the owner to be like, hey, we're going to go in a different direction. And in case you haven't picked up on what Mike has been throwing down for a little bit this episode, the New York Yankees those same New York Yankees of Ruth, Gehrig, DiMaggio, Mantle, and Costanza have finally relaxed their facial hair policy and are now allowing tasteful beards to be worn by their players. What is a tasteful beard? I have absolutely no idea. If you want to place your bets down on which guy's going to show up at spring training looking like Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, be my guest. To me, that's a pretty tasteful beard. He looks great, and he's looked good for a long time. But yeah, so that leaves one team in the world with a policy against facial hair, and it is your New York Islanders. And so maybe that changes. You never know. Maybe Lou is like, the Yankees have given up, so I will as well. Tasteful beards are allowed. But again, it's almost playoff time, and maybe he's like, you guys want to have beards? Make the playoffs, which he could also possibly say. So I don't know. It's pretty crazy. It's been a long ride, man, and I'm tired. I was tired at the beginning of that Stars game, and I was even more tired at the end of it because I've just seen this before, and I want to see something new, good new, not bad new. I don't want to see it get even worse, but this whole scratching and clawing kind of way just isn't working for me anymore. And when you lose a game by a goal here and there, and you get one decision by one referee kind of throws you off like that, or one goal doesn't go your way and it ends up losing. I don't like it. And then, of course, like you said, they don't have Barzell. They don't have Dobson. Probably not going to have him for their game against the Rangers. Maybe he's back for the weekend. Who knows? Then I promise you somebody else is going to get hurt. Right. I'm not trying to be morbid, but somebody else is dead. If Dobson shows up, let's say Thursday in Boston, hey, Noah Dobson's here. Great. I promise you somebody's going to get hurt in that game, and they're going to be out for 3 weeks. Because that's just how it's been going. And It's just, and again, they're on the edge, and they're just, every little thing means a huge, huge problem for them. And it's got to change at some point. They just can't keep doing themselves like this. And what that means, where the change is going to come from, I don't know. But here we are. The Yankees are allowing beards. The Islanders are hanging on by a thread. It's a topsy-turvy world. So I don't know. My favorite thing, by the way, about that Ruth, Gehrig, DiMaggio, Mantle, Costanza thing is that they just skip, by going from Mantle to Costanza, they just skip every great Yankee of the 70s and 80s. No Reggie Jackson, there's no Thurman Munson, there's no, Don Mattingly or Ricky Henderson, none of those guys. They're just straight from, 1960s Mickey Mantle to George Costanza in the early 90s. Anyway, I've been saving that this whole time. I just wanted to get that out there. But in all seriousness, this might be the last. We got 3 games coming up this week, and then 2 games next week, and then, like you said, there's the deadline, and then they're in California for 3 games. So this might be the last 5 games you have to see some of these guys wearing blue and orange.
Like Brock Nelson will play his 900th game.
Yeah, could be next week against Winnipeg. Yeah,
something like that, and that might be with another team.
Right.
This could be it. This could be the last time you get to see Brock Nelson do anything meaningful for the Islanders, and
he could play his 900th game as a New York Islander against the Winnipeg Jets at home, and then immediately be traded to the Winnipeg Jets.
Yes,
and then leave on a plane with the Winnipeg Jets back to Winnipeg or wherever they're going.
Right. Yeah, it's not a it's sports, so it's trivial, but it's not a trivial situation in the context of it being sports when you're talking about a player who's played the 5th most games for the New York Islanders. He scored the 5th most goals for the New York Islanders, and has a chance to catch, if he's stuck around, to become the guy with the 4th most points in the New York Islanders history. So on the Beards, I was just waiting for the okay, it's it's your turn, Lou, and knowing that that's not how this works. Like it's not gonna you yelling on Twitter is not gonna get to Lou Lamoriello to be like, all right, if Adam Boquist wants to show up tomorrow with a beard, he's allowed to show up tomorrow with a beard, and we're fine. We're moving into we're moving on from that policy. But yeah, I mean it's all it's just a bizarre situation, and like you said, Dubas has it harder, and of course we also feel very Lou is Lou has made his own bed here, right? Like that's how everyone thinks. But we do feel so much sympathy, and our hearts go out to poor Eric Tulsky of the Carolina Hurricanes, who traded for Mikko Rantanen. And Mikko Rantanen seemingly doesn't want to play for the Carolina Hurricanes. So now the Carolina Hurricanes might have to, Eric Tulsky and all his wisdom might have to trade Mikko Rantanen right back, but it's not his fault.
No,
Rantanen needs to process the trade. He needs to, the trade that happened a couple months ago. He needs to process it and wrap his head around it before he can make a commitment to the Hurricanes.
It's like a breakup, Kyle. It's like a really hard breakup.
I don't know if you've ever been in tough negotiations before, but that's how these things go. And you can rest assured that no matter what Eric Tulsky does here with Mikko Rantanen, he won't cop a shred of criticism. Meanwhile, whatever direction Lou Lamoriello decides to go, will be met with some of the funniest jokes you've ever seen on Twitter. Whether he decides to finally he gives it up, or he holds on to these guys, and everyone just makes fun of him for beating a dead horse. So get ready for that. But we did want to just make sure we reached out and made it known that we Eric, we're with you. This was a totally a situation you didn't make for yourself. You didn't make your own bed here. It's not your fault. It's just coming down to this. It was like all the guys that needed a break. Elias Pettersson, he just needs a break. Morgan Riley just needs a break. Eric Tulsky and Mikko Rantanen, they just need to process things. A lot of tough situations for these GMs to go out. And also, I wanted to say one more thing about Lou, which was I thought was going to catch on, but didn't, from whether, I don't know if it was 32 Thoughts or whatever, but Lou's not on the GM WhatsApp that, like,
I heard about this.
Yeah. Which makes me love the guy even more. Like it's just, and that kind of brings me back to my point about the Rangers and how, like, this is the Rangers are in, they made their own bed. Their GM made their bed for him, and their owner made their bed for him. That's why their season has been strange on paper, is because they had a freaking PR nightmare because of a lot of different things. And Lou will part of what will be missed if the Islanders do when they do move on from this regime, or whoever the heir apparent is here doesn't kind of adhere to this kind of code, is that like there's a chance that they do stupid shit again like that.
Yeah.
Like the Islanders have done stupid shit before. And Lou Lamoriello, he does some, he's stubborn and whatever, set in his ways, but he doesn't do stupid shit. Like he's not gonna publicly like blackmail Barclay Goodrow into going back to the San Jose Sharks, and cause a rift in the locker room 2 weeks after they made the Eastern Conference Final.
Right.
So like there's that kind of stuff too that just becomes possible again if it goes that way.
Some people might argue that everything Lou does is stupid shit. Like that's that's the other feeling there. But again, we don't know. It could be. There's a chance though. This team is exactly the same on the day after the trade deadline when they touch down in San Jose or wherever they're going.
And like, if I'm being honest, like myself, that's what I'm hoping for, right? Because I am, if nothing else, like I am just I am romantically, like I'm a sports romantic. I'm a freaking Islanders tragic. And I am very attached to this core group of Islanders that we've watched defy some serious odds in the past and grow up together and go to each other's sons' christenings and stuff. So like I am, that's what I'm hoping for as a fan. But what I do, is that what I think is best for the team?
Yeah.
Well, that's a completely different question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like we've said, I don't want to see Brock Nelson put on a Winnipeg Jets or Minnesota Wild jersey any more than anybody else does. But, that might be what's best for everybody. But like Mike said before, all we can do is hang on for the ride and see where it goes and enjoy at least the next 5 games. And then once we get to the trade deadline, we'll discuss. We'll see where we're going from there. We were going to talk about the All-Star game. There was a bit of a discussion about this on 32 Thoughts this week. It was actually, I thought, pretty well done. The All-Star game is obviously next year at UBS Arena, and we live in a post-Four Nations world where the regular old All-Star game ain't going to cut it anymore. The NBA All-Star game was apparently basically the worst Kevin Hart stand-up special ever, with intermittent basketball-like product shoved in the middle of it, and that didn't work for anybody, and so there might have to be some changes. And Elliot had this idea of like doing sort of a convention thing, like the skills competition, and then having sort of like a convention thing, where people can talk and meet players and stuff. That would be kind of cool. I actually emailed the Thought Line with some, ideas of my own, two pretty basic ideas. Honestly, you guys probably had the same idea too. So let's see what happens on Thursday or Sunday if they listen to my, they read my thing on the air. I am Dan from New Jersey, and I only thanked Dom. So I did not thank Kyle or Elliot. So we'll see how it goes. So I'm hoping that they find that funny enough that they read it on air, but we'll see what happens. But we'll have that discussion another day because, again, there's a long time between now and then. But I did think it was pretty good talk on their part.
Well, in the specifically unique way that the Islanders are cursed by the hockey gods, I think this is the first time that they've had the All-Star game in most Islander fans' lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be, if they do play, the worst All-Star game of all, like the most least enthusiastic All-Star game of all time and such. So of course that they get this one. Of course they get the one after the year. I mean, nobody wanted an All-Star game for a while, but
it's the year after the Four Nations, and it's like 3 weeks before everybody goes to the Olympics.
Yeah, it's
the most Islanders All-Star game spot of all time. But they talk about this on 32 Thoughts too. The reason the Islanders wanted to have it was because of, not only has it been 43 years, obviously, but they wanted to show off the area outside UBS. I assume by then Belmont Park will be done, the hotel will be done, and so they want to show off the area around the arena, and that's fair. I mean, I think that's probably fine for them, but it could not be at a worst possible time. So we'll see what happens. But we got a long time to discuss that. And before we sign off, just a couple of quick notes of not to bring everybody down, but a couple of quick notes of condolences. I'm sure you guys have all seen by now. Al Troutwig of MSG Network, previously of the USA Network, previously of Adelphi University, previously an Islander stick boy, passed away today at the age of 68. If you've been watching sports in the New York area, you know who Al Troutwig is. You've seen Al Troutwig. He covered just about everything and mainly the Rangers on MSG for all we know. And it was kind of a shock to read that he had passed away from cancer, and it was really sad. So he had many friends in the area. Our condolences to them, to his loved ones, and to his family. That's tough, and he's a legend, for this area here of New York sports. And last week, Mike Lang passed away, the great Penguins broadcaster. You've heard Mike Lang's calls throughout the year. They are one of a kind. Scratch my back with a hacksaw, or buy Sam a drink and get his dog one too, or how much chicken can one person eat? Like that's all Mike Lang, and that was from an era before YouTube, before viral clips and stuff. And it would just, I know that stuff can get grating. It's a little bit annoying when broadcasters have that kind of stuff, but his always seemed to come from an era of like pure joy. And it was from that era of like, if you knew who Mike Lang was and you knew what Scratch My Back with a Hacksaw came from, you felt like part of a small club of hockey fans that knew where Hartford was, or where Winnipeg was, or where Quebec was, and the whole history of that kind of stuff. And so I always had a soft spot for Mike Lang. And obviously, even as a Penguins broadcaster, I always enjoyed his calls and stuff like that. And it was sad to see him pass away too. So condolences to his family and friends as well, and to Penguins fans everywhere.
Yeah. And I say it all the time about Stan, right? Like it's that era of broadcasting. I'm as a huge Mike Francesa fan. And my favorite WFAN personality ever was Steve Summers. Like he spoke a completely different version of English than anybody else on the planet, and somehow was able to turn that into a career where he talked about sports in English. And there's just very few folks like that who still do it. And I do think Francesa is one of them. Love him or hate him, like he just has his own thing. And sports broadcasting and sports journalism has become such a kind of homogenized entity, I guess, that it's those guys, like you think back to if somebody showed up to interview for the job broadcasting a Worcester Railers game and was breaking into the biz and wanted to like get their career started, the last thing that they would think to do would be to say, scratch my back with a hacksaw after a player scored, because it would just get them, whatever. So, and it would be a viral clip and everyone would make fun of him, whatever, but because nobody has a sense of appreciation for that kind of uniqueness anymore. It has to sound good and whatever. And, so yeah, it was sad to hear it. The news about Mike Lang, and it does make you kind of wish that more broadcasters had that kind of personality. It does seem like the radio. I mean, look, like Chris King is one of a kind too. Like, but so like the radio is a different universe compared to TV, but there just aren't enough of them around in any sport either. And the Al Troutwig thing. The first thing that popped into my mind when I heard the news was that nothing got under my skin more as an Islander fan and a Ranger hater than every spring turning on MSG for game 1 of a Rangers playoff series, and they started the pregame show or like the beginning of the actual game broadcast with a montage, and Al Troutwig would narrate over it, and he'd do such a good job of it. Like he'd kind of sum the Rangers season up in 2.5 minutes of footage and pucks going off of shins and into the nets and 5-on-3 power plays and gift calls and all that, and all world goalies that they luck into because we have Peter Regan. And he would do such a good job of it that I was like, it must feel really good to be a Ranger fan right now. But as you said, he was like an icon, like losing him is horrible. And that broadcast, for as annoying as it is as an Islander fan, it's the Rangers. Like it is the Rangers. So like they did such a good job of making it feel like the Rangers and sound like the Rangers and be unmistakably New York and New York Rangers. So just sometimes you just got to tip your cap to those folks. And he's definitely someone who has been missed on the New York hockey scene for a little bit here.
It was like the Rangers had their own personal documentarian.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I'm pretty sure no other teams have that. I'm sure there's a couple. I'm sure there's somebody who works for the Canadians or Leafs or whatever who does
there's
that.
like a 22-year-old senior at North Carolina State who does it for the Hurricanes and makes funny jokes.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's definitely a unique Rangers thing. And Al Troutwig was that guy. And again, it wasn't just hockey. Like I remember him calling like Olympic stuff for USA Network 100 years ago. And he's just one of those guys that's always seemed to have been there. Again, we're very lucky here in the New York area where these people come and they're there for the entirety of our lives. Stan Fischler is obviously, number one on the list. Like he still feels weird that he's not there every game, but it just seemed like he was always there, and we can read him now, which is still great. But I kind of miss him on TV, but we need to hang on to these folks. They do a great job, and they're missed when they're gone. And I hope that, there are people telling their kids, about these guys and keeping their aesthetic and their kind of joy for the game alive. And I was telling my daughter about Mike Lang the other day, and I was going through the lines, and she was laughing, and she's like, "Why would he say that?" I'm like, "I don't know. I guess you call so many goals, you can't just say, 'Hey, there's a goal.' Like you got to say something." And so he would say, "How much fried chicken can you eat?" Like I don't know. It just makes no sense. But it was beautiful. Like it was just such a hockey thing. It was just a funny thing, and it made me laugh just thinking about it. So again, condolences to the friends and family of Al Troutwig and Mike Lang. We are going to wrap that up. It's been a long episode. We went to some strange places today, just talking about one game for the Islanders and a couple coming up. So I guess that's the kind of mood that we're in with these 5 games coming up here. But it's going to be a big week with the trade deadline on the 7th of March. We are going to be back next week, and we'll dive into some trade deadline stuff in that episode. Who knows what's going on? Who knows where Mikko Rantanen's going to be? Who knows where Brock Nelson's going to be? Who knows where Jordan Kyrou? Who knows where the Shen brothers are going to be? Some teams are trying to reunite the Shen brothers. Please try to contain your excitement for the Shen brothers reunion coming to a team near you. But we'll get into all that next week and then kind of wrap up these games as well. We put out an episode of Weird Islanders, the podcast, last week that was absolutely fantastic, and it's with a guy named Pinholes Graham. And if you don't know who Pinholes Graham is, before you listen to that episode, if you have not yet, which you should have, please go to YouTube, find his YouTube channel, and watch literally any one of his homemade, fantastic NHL documentaries. They're really great. He's done one on the Neutral Zone Trap. He did one on the Islanders Leafs playoff series. He did one on the Devils Flyers series. That was the Eric Lindros thing. He did one on the whole season of the Avs where they signed Correa and Solani and looked to be like all-time world beaters, and then the whole thing went to shit. He does great work. It was a pleasure having him on Weird Islanders, the podcast. He's a big Caps guy, and we talked about Jamie Heward, who, if you were a fan of the turn of the millennium Islanders teams, you might remember, and has a weird place in Capitals history too, which is a weird place in a lot of teams' history. So check it out. It's out, available right now. And then, like I said, later on this week, new addition to my Islanders book club. This one I'm going to be making for free for everybody next week, but starting Friday, it'll be for Country Club tier subscribers only at the Patreon. So you can read that, and then next week it'll be out for everybody. So you can check that out then. Become a member at patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety for ad-free episodes and bonus content. You know the way it goes. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, everywhere you get your podcast. Please leave us a review where you can. Our theme song is Morning Haze by Family Dinner. Listen to more of their music on Spotify. Check out their new record, God Looks Out for Fools. I believe they're on tour now as well. Read Lighthouse Hockey every single day. For your up-to-date Islanders news and discussion. Islanders Anxiety Podcast is part of the Fans for Sports Network. Shop VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. Mike, where can everybody find you on Twitter?
The Big Lebowski with 2 E's.
Follow Mike at the Big Lebowski. I think both of us are not 100%, but we've managed to make this an hour and 45 some odd minutes talking about one Islanders game. I need to remind people that one game and then a couple coming up here. We managed to make it, but any final thoughts for this? What again could be really, for all intents and purposes, the last week of the regular season.
Yeah, no, it's it'll be a scary few games here, and that's really it. I mean, I think we touched all we could on that one game and the 4 coming up, and like there's nothing else left to really be said. It's just now it's time to just see what actually happens, which is scary.
Extremely. But we'll be back next week to discuss what happens and see if my hot take comes to life. And the Islanders actually, if nothing else, if the Islanders beat the Nashville Predators on Saturday in a matinee in front of a UBS arena half filled with children, I think we can consider that a great victory of the season. But we'll have to see what happens. And if it doesn't, well, that's why I don't do hot takes on this show. But we'll find out what happens. We'll talk to you guys next week. And until then, enjoy. Take care. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.